A thunderstorm raged in Sarah's mind as she clutched her worn-out phone tighter than ever. 17-year-old Sarah Khan was small in stature, quiet, and unassuming, with a heart far bigger than her timid exterior suggested. She had always preferred listening over speaking, observing over acting. But today she had to make a decision that could either crush her dignity or reveal a truth no one expected. Her classmates snickered as she slid her cracked phone out of her bag. "Still using that ancient thing?" one whispered loud enough for half the class to hear. The laughter that followed made Sarah shrink inside herself, her fingers trembling. Should she stand up and explain why she couldn't afford a new phone, risking humiliation? Or should she silently endure the mockery and keep her secret buried? Was it worth telling the truth, even if it meant everyone seeing her father's struggles? Or should she let this shame follow her forever? The classroom felt like a battlefield, and in that moment, Sarah's heart raced as if it knew this small object in her hand would change everything. The sunlight streamed through the tall, dusty windows of Crescent High School, casting golden beams onto the polished floors. Dust particles danced in the light, and the quiet hum of students settling in for morning class made the room feel almost magical. Except for Sarah. She sat at her usual corner desk, her gaze fixed on the scratched screen of her old phone. Around her, her peers whispered and laughed, their energy a mix of boredom and excitement. "Why don't you just upgrade already?" a girl named Hira called out, smirking as she flaunted her brand new phone. "Or is your dad too cheap to buy you one?" The laughter was sharp, echoing off the walls, slicing through Sarah's confidence. Sarah's fingers clenched the phone tighter. She wanted to disappear, to sink through the floorboards and escape the cruel attention. But something caught her eye, a subtle movement near the teacher's desk. Mr. Qureshi, usually buried in papers and textbooks, was glancing at her with an unreadable expression. He had a way of noticing things no one else did. "Sarah," he said softly, not loud enough to draw attention, "come here for a moment." Her heart thudded. Was he going to scold her? Or had he noticed the mocking laughter? Hesitantly, she approached, trying to ignore the prying eyes of her classmates. Mr. Qureshi looked at her phone, then back at her eyes. "Is this yours?" he asked gently. "Yes, sir," Sarah whispered, her voice barely audible. He nodded slowly, then paused. "Sometimes, the smallest things can tell the biggest stories," he said mysteriously, sliding a piece of paper across the desk to her. It was an envelope, sealed, with her father's handwriting on it. Sarah's hands shook as she picked it up, confused and scared. The bell rang, but the noise didn't reach her. All she could hear was her own heartbeat, loud and uneven. She knew that whatever was in that envelope could change the way everyone saw her, maybe even the whole school. But was she ready to let the world see her father's struggles? Could she face the shame, or would she run and hide, like she had done so many times before? Just as she opened the envelope, a sudden commotion erupted at the classroom door. A group of girls had gathered, whispering, pointing, and laughing. But something about the look in their eyes made Sarah freeze. They weren't just mocking anymore, they seemed afraid, almost guilty. Sarah unfolded the paper and began to read. Her eyes widened, and her lips parted in shock. The message, it wasn't what she expected. Her father's words were not just a plea or an apology. They were a challenge, a secret, and a truth that could shatter assumptions and rewrite everything her classmates thought about her. In that moment, Sarah realized something: the choice wasn't just about an old phone anymore. It was about courage. About revealing a story that no one had the right to judge, and about standing tall when the world expected her to crumble. The room seemed to tilt around her. Mr. Qureshi's eyes met hers again, calm but insistent. She had a decision to make: reveal the truth to the class or keep it hidden and let the laughter continue. And then, a voice from the back of the classroom, Hira's voice, cut through her thoughts. "What are you hiding, Sarah?" The door swung open slowly, and in walked a man whose presence seemed to silence the entire classroom. He was tall, with a kind but worn face, and eyes that carried years of struggle and determination. For a moment, Sarah froze, unsure whether to hide the envelope or show it. Her classmates' laughter faded into murmurs of curiosity and confusion. Her father. The words echoed in her mind. "My father, here," she whispered to herself, disbelief written across her pale face. Good morning, everyone, he said calmly, though there was an edge to his voice that made even the loudest students quiet. I hope I'm not interrupting, but I have something important to share. Sarah's heart thudded so hard it felt like it might burst from her chest. Her classmates stared at her and her father in stunned silence. Hira's smirk had vanished, it was replaced with uncertainty. Mr. Qureshi gestured for her father to step forward. Please, he said, everyone, listen carefully. Sarah's father opened the envelope he had entrusted to her earlier. He cleared his throat, and the room grew even quieter. I know my daughter's phone has been the subject of ridicule, he began, glancing at Sarah with a mix of pride and sadness. And I want everyone to understand why she uses an old phone. A few students whispered among themselves, but the murmurs didn't distract him. He continued. Our family has faced challenges you may never understand. I work multiple jobs to keep food on the table and provide for my children. The phone Sarah has, it's all we could afford. But it's not just a phone. It's a reminder of what we've overcome together, what we value most: honesty, humility, and resilience. Sarah's eyes welled with tears. The pride and love in her father's voice made her chest tighten. The envelope trembled slightly in her hands, but she finally felt courage blooming inside her. But there's something more, her father said, his gaze sweeping across the room, locking briefly on each student. Sarah is more than a phone. She is intelligent, creative, and brave. And she has something to show you all. He handed the envelope back to Sarah. Her hands no longer shook. She opened it carefully and pulled out a stack of papers. They were sketches, detailed, beautiful drawings that depicted stories, people, and places far beyond the imagination of anyone in the classroom. The room erupted, not in laughter, but in stunned amazement. Whispers turned into murmurs of admiration. Even Hera's eyes widened, a mixture of guilt and surprise crossing her face. Sarah took a deep breath. These are my drawings, she said softly but with growing confidence. I've been working on them for years. I don't have the newest phone or the latest gadgets, but I have this. She held the sketches up for everyone to see. And maybe that's more important than anything else. A silence followed, heavy and electric. Then, Mr. Qureshi smiled and clapped once, sharply. Bravo, Sarah. This is what courage looks like, showing who you are, despite fear. Some students approached her cautiously, offering hesitant compliments. These are amazing, one girl murmured. I didn't know you could draw like this. Hira stepped forward last. Her voice was soft, almost unsure. Sarah. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have made fun of you. Sarah nodded, a small smile forming. She realized that for the first time, she wasn't shrinking. She wasn't hiding. She was standing tall. But just as the relief began to wash over her, her father's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, and his expression shifted from calm to grave in an instant. Excuse me, he said quietly, stepping out to take the call. Sarah's curiosity spiked. Something about his sudden change unsettled her. Minutes passed. Then, when he returned, his face was pale. Sarah, there's something we need to talk about. Something that could change everything we've just shared. Sarah's stomach dropped. She looked at her sketches, at the classroom still buzzing with admiration, and then back at her father. What is it? She whispered. He hesitated, biting his lip. It's about your mother, and something from the past that's coming back. Something dangerous. Sarah's heart raced. The world she thought she understood, the one where courage and honesty could conquer shame, suddenly felt fragile and uncertain. Hira and a few other students exchanged nervous glances. Mr. Qureshi stepped closer, sensing the tension. What do you mean? Sarah asked, her voice trembling but determined. What's happening? Her father looked around, then locked eyes with her. We may not be safe anymore. And I need you to be ready, Sarah. Because the next decision you make could change everything. Sarah swallowed hard. She had faced humiliation, fear, and doubt, but now the stakes were higher than ever. The classroom that had been her stage for courage a moment ago now felt like the threshold of an unknown storm. And then, a sudden sound outside the window made everyone freeze, a low, ominous thud, like someone had dropped something heavy. Sarah's eyes darted toward the window, where the low thud had come from. Outside, the playground looked empty, bathed in the early morning sunlight. Yet the feeling of unease refused to leave her chest. She could almost hear her father's words echoing in her mind, something dangerous could change everything. Her classmates were silent now, sensing the shift in atmosphere. Even the once bubbly chatter of Hira had disappeared. Mr. Qureshi furrowed his brow, glancing at the door and windows as though he, too, felt the tension tightening around them. "Father, what is it?" Sarah asked again, her voice trembling. She wanted answers. She needed to understand. Her father shook his head, taking a deep breath. "It's about your mother, and something that happened years ago. Before you were born, our family made enemies. People who never forgave us. And now, it seems they've found a way back into our lives." Sarah's stomach twisted. Her mother had passed away when she was very young, and though she remembered her face in blurry photographs, she had never known the full story of why her life had been so quiet, so careful. Now, the pieces were starting to fall into place, but the picture was terrifying. The classroom door creaked suddenly, and Sarah flinched. No one had touched it. A chill ran down her spine as if a shadow had passed through the doorway, brushing the air with danger. "Dad, what does that mean? Are we in danger?" Sarah whispered, clutching the envelope of sketches as if it could protect her. Her father's jaw tightened. "I don't know yet. But we need to be careful. Someone has been watching us, tracking our movements. And I have reason to believe they've started here, at school." A cold wave of fear washed over Sarah. Her safe world, the one where the cruel laughter of classmates was the biggest threat, had suddenly become much larger, much darker. Her phone, her sketches, even the classroom itself now seemed fragile. Hira, who had been standing silently at the back, suddenly spoke, her voice shaky. "Sarah, are you saying someone is after you? After your family?" Sarah nodded, unable to speak at first. "I think, maybe." Mr. Qureshi stepped closer, his usually calm demeanor now carrying an edge of worry. "Sarah, your father is right. You need to be careful. And you need to trust only those who have proven themselves loyal." Sarah's mind raced. Who could she trust? Her classmates who had mocked her? Hira, who had just apologized? Or was it safer to rely solely on her father, the one person whose courage and determination she had always depended on? Suddenly, a loud crash came from the hallway outside. Everyone jumped. Books toppled, papers flew, and a teacher shouted from down the hall. Sarah's heart pounded like a drum. Her father's expression hardened. "That's it. We can't wait anymore. Sarah, we have to leave. Now." Sarah's eyes widened. Leave? But, school, my friends, my drawings, she felt torn. Everything she had just gained, the respect, the courage, the acknowledgement of her talent, was slipping away. "I know, Beta," her father said softly, placing a firm hand on her shoulder. "But your safety comes first. Some truths are more dangerous than pride or recognition. We'll come back when it's safe. But right now, we run." Sarah glanced around. Her classmates' eyes were wide, frozen in shock and fear. Hira's hand twitched toward her phone, but she didn't speak. Mr. Qureshi nodded slightly, as if silently giving permission to leave the classroom immediately. As they moved toward the exit, Sarah's mind flashed back to the envelope of sketches. Could she leave them behind? Could she risk losing her creative life, the one thing that defined her, just to escape danger? She swallowed hard. And then, from the far corner of the classroom, a shadow moved. Someone was watching them, someone who didn't belong, someone who had been there all along, waiting. Sarah's pulse spiked. "Dad, someone's here," she whispered urgently. Her father's eyes narrowed. "Stay close to me. No matter what happens, don't let go." The shadow shifted closer, and Sarah caught a glimpse of a face partially hidden by the doorway. Familiar, yet threatening. Fear and determination collided inside her chest. This was the moment where bravery wasn't optional, it was necessary. And then, just as they reached the classroom door, a hand shot out from the shadows and grabbed Sarah's wrist. Sarah's heart leapt into her throat as the hand tightened around her wrist. Panic surged through her like electricity. The classroom, once familiar and safe, now felt like a cage. Her father spun around, his eyes sharp and calculating, and instantly gripped her other arm. "Who's there?" he demanded, his voice steady but low, carrying authority that made the shadow hesitate. The figure slowly emerged from the dim hallway. A man, tall and broad, his face partially concealed under a hood. He didn't speak, he simply stared at Sarah, his eyes cold and unreadable. Sarah's pulse thundered. "Dad, what? Who is he?" she whispered, fear and confusion mixing in her voice. Her father didn't release her. "I don't know yet. But stay calm, Beta. Don't scream. Let me handle this." The man's lips twitched, as if a smirk was trying to break free. "So this is Sarah Khan," he said finally, his voice low, almost menacing. "The girl with the old phone, the one everyone laughs at. And now, the one who thinks she's brave." Sarah's stomach twisted. How did he know her name? How did he know about the phone? Before she could answer, her father stepped forward, placing himself between Sarah and the intruder. "Step back. You're not welcome here. Whatever your business, it ends now." The man laughed softly, but it was a sound that sent shivers down every spine in the room. "You think you can protect her?" he asked, glancing at Sarah as if she were a fragile bird. "You don't even know what's coming." Sarah's fear battled with a surge of courage. She remembered the envelope, her sketches, the pride she felt when her classmates finally saw her talent. Something deep inside her ignited a flame she didn't know she had. "No," she said firmly, pulling free from her father's grip for just a moment. "You won't scare me. Not me, and not my family." The man raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised by her boldness. "Interesting," he murmured, circling them like a predator. "You're braver than I thought. But bravery doesn't save you from what's coming." Sarah glanced at the sketches in her bag. You won't touch them," she said, her voice stronger now. "They're mine. They're not just paper, they're my life, my voice." For a brief moment, the intruder paused, studying her. Then, without warning, he lunged forward. Sarah's father reacted instantly, pushing her behind him. A loud crash echoed as the man knocked over a chair, sending books scattering across the floor. The classroom erupted into chaos. Students screamed and ducked behind desks. Mr. Qureshi shouted, trying to regain control, but even he looked unsure of what would happen next. Sarah's heart pounded in her ears, but amidst the chaos, a strange clarity came over her. This was it. This was the moment she had been unknowingly preparing for, every moment of mockery, every secret kept, every ounce of courage she had gathered. She took a deep breath, gripped the envelope tightly, and stepped forward. "Stop," she shouted. "I'm not afraid." The intruder froze, startled by her defiance. Her voice, though small, carried more weight than she imagined. There was a fire in her eyes that even he couldn't ignore. Her father's hand rested on her shoulder, steadying her, and together they faced the man. "You've underestimated us," her father said, voice calm but sharp. "We protect our own. And we won't back down." The man narrowed his eyes, his expression darkening. "This isn't over," he hissed, then abruptly turned and fled down the hallway, disappearing before anyone could stop him. The room was silent, except for the ragged breaths of students and the creak of the swinging door. Sarah's legs wobbled, her knees nearly giving out. Mr. Qureshi approached, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You handled that incredibly well," he said quietly. "I've never seen courage like that in someone your age." Sarah looked around at the scattered books, the terrified classmates, the lingering echo of the intruder's voice, and felt a strange mixture of fear and exhilaration. She had faced danger head-on, and she had survived. Her father knelt beside her, brushing a stray lock of hair from her forehead. "Sarah, you were amazing," he whispered. "But remember, this is only the beginning. The man you just saw, he's a part of something bigger. And we have to be ready." Sarah swallowed hard, her pulse still racing. Something inside her had shifted. She realized that courage wasn't about the absence of fear, it was about standing tall despite it. And just as she thought the danger had passed, a faint sound came from the classroom window, a shadow moving across the wall outside, watching, waiting. Sarah's stomach tightened. This was far from over. The shadow outside the window vanished as quickly as it appeared, leaving a lingering sense of dread in the classroom. Sarah's hands were still shaking, but a spark of determination had taken root deep inside her. She realized that fear could not control her anymore. Not today. Not now. Her father's gaze remained steady. "Sarah," he said softly, "we need to leave this school immediately. It's not safe here anymore. That man, he's connected to things I hoped I'd never have to tell you about." Sarah's mind raced. "Connected? How? Dad, what are you hiding from me?" Her father hesitated, his eyes flicking to Mr. Qureshi and the other teachers who were still recovering from the chaos. "It's time you knew the truth about your mother, and why she had to leave certain people behind." Sarah's stomach tightened. All these years, she had lived with only fragments of her past. Her mother had died when Sarah was very young, leaving behind stories that seemed incomplete, like a puzzle missing half its pieces. And now, the pieces were finally being revealed, but they threatened to shake the very foundation of her life. Many years ago, her father began, his voice low and serious, "We were part of a family business, one that had enemies, powerful and ruthless. Your mother, she was always brave, stronger than anyone I've ever known. But there were people who wanted to hurt us. People who never forgave past mistakes." Sarah's mind spun. Enemies? But what does that have to do with me? Or the man in the classroom? Her father swallowed hard. Everything. He's the first of several people who've been searching for us. They want to settle old scores. And now, they've started looking for you. Sarah's chest tightened. The sketches, the laughter of her classmates, the sense of finally belonging, all of it now felt fragile, like it could shatter with a single moment. She looked down at her hands, trembling around the envelope. "So, all of this, my life, my school, was never really safe?" Her father nodded gravely. "I tried to shield you from it, but some things cannot be hidden forever. And that man, he's a warning. He's telling us that the past isn't done with us yet." Sarah's pulse quickened. "What do we do now?" Her father looked at her with a mix of pride and concern. "We run. We hide. And we prepare. You've shown courage today, Sarah, more than many adults ever will. But courage alone won't be enough. We need strategy, patience, and allies." Sarah's mind raced. Allies? Who could they trust? Could they even trust anyone outside their family? Her thoughts drifted briefly to Mr. Qureshi. He had been calm, supportive, and protective, but how much did he really know? The school bell rang, jolting everyone back to reality. Sarah realized that they were the center of attention, yet no one could help them against the unknown threat waiting outside. Hira approached hesitantly, her face pale. "Sarah. I want to help," Hira said quietly, her voice trembling. "I shouldn't have mocked you. I see now, maybe I can do something." Sarah considered her for a moment. Could she trust her? Could she rely on someone who had once been her tormentor? But something in Hira's eyes, the fear, the sincerity, made her pause. Maybe, just maybe, people could change when faced with real danger. Her father grabbed his bag, motioning for Sarah to follow. No time to think. Every second counts. They won't wait. Remember, Sarah, the braver you are now, the safer you might be later. But courage without caution can be deadly. Sarah clutched her envelope of sketches tightly, feeling their weight against her chest. They weren't just drawings anymore, they were reminders of who she was, and what she had survived. She took a deep breath and followed her father through the back door of the classroom, stepping into the hallway that had moments ago been filled with chaos. As they moved quickly down the corridor, Sarah glanced back. The shadow she had seen at the window earlier was gone, but something else had taken its place. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, echoing in the empty hallway. Her heart raced. "Dad, someone's following us," she whispered. Her father's hand tightened around hers. "I know. And now, Sarah, we have to be smarter than they are. Every step from now on counts." Sarah swallowed hard. She had faced mockery, shame, and fear before, but now, the threat was real, and it wasn't going to wait for her to be ready. And just as they reached the stairwell, a voice echoed from behind, a voice that made Sarah's blood run cold. "Sarah Khan, you can't run from the past." She froze. Her father stiffened. The enemy had found them again. Sarah's heart thudded in her chest, echoing in the empty hallway as her father tightened his grip on her hand. The voice behind them had been chilling, familiar yet threatening. Whoever it was, they weren't just a stranger, they knew her name, knew her family, and knew exactly how to scare her. Her father whispered urgently, "Stay calm, Sarah. Don't panic. Remember what I taught you, control your fear, or it controls you." Sarah swallowed hard, forcing herself to breathe evenly, but the hallway seemed to stretch endlessly. Every footstep behind them echoed like a drumbeat, relentless and terrifying. "Dad, they're faster than us," she whispered, panic creeping in despite her efforts to stay brave. Her father glanced back briefly, eyes sharp. "We're not just running. We're leading them somewhere we can handle them. Trust me." The stairwell loomed ahead. They raced down, two figures in a blur of motion, their footsteps pounding against the concrete steps. As they reached the ground floor, the front doors of the school appeared blocked. Someone had anticipated their escape. Sarah froze. "Dad, what do we do now?" Before he could answer, a shadowy figure stepped from behind a row of lockers, a man tall and menacing, his features obscured by a hood. He held a device that glowed faintly in his hand, like a tracker or some kind of weapon. Sarah's stomach twisted. She had never felt fear like this before, not when classmates mocked her, not even when the intruder grabbed her wrist. This was something bigger, something calculated. Her father stepped forward, placing himself between Sarah and the man. "Step back. Now." The man chuckled, a low, hollow sound that made the air seem heavier. "You think you can hide? You think running will help," he said. "Your family owes a debt, and debts are always collected." Sarah's mind raced. "Debt? What does he mean? Mom, what did she do?" Her father's jaw tightened. "Something I hoped I'd never have to explain, but now it's clear. Your mother, she was brave, yes, but she also made enemies. Powerful enemies who never forget." Sarah's chest tightened. The truth she had only glimpsed in fragments now pressed down on her. Her mother's death, their struggles, even the old phone, it wasn't just about poverty or hardship. There had been a threat, a shadow that had been following their family for years. The man in the hood moved closer, and the device in his hand began to beep softly. "Running won't save you. But you," he pointed at Sarah. "You can't escape what's yours." Sarah's breath caught. For a moment, she felt paralyzed, trapped between fear and desperation. Then, something inside her sparked. She remembered the envelope in her bag, the sketches that had once seemed like small treasures, now symbols of her courage, her voice, her life. "Dad," she said, her voice steady despite the pounding of her heart, "I think I can help. I think I can stop him." Her father's eyes widened. "Sarah, it's dangerous. You don't know what he's capable of." "I have to try," she said firmly. "I can't just run forever." In that moment, Sarah felt a shift within herself. She had been mocked for her old phone, underestimated for her quiet nature, dismissed for her small stature, but none of that mattered now. What mattered was courage, determination, and using every ounce of wit and heart she possessed. She reached into her bag and pulled out the envelope, holding it tightly. The intruder's eyes flicked toward it, a brief flash of recognition in his gaze. Give me that, he hissed, stepping closer. Sarah clenched her teeth. No. You don't get to take what's mine. Not my family, not my life, not my voice. Her father stepped beside her, ready to defend her, but Sarah held up a hand. Let me do this, she said firmly. I know what I have to do. The man in the hood smirked, clearly amused. Bold girl, let's see how far your courage gets you. Sarah took a deep breath. Every second stretched into eternity. And then, with a bold step forward, she opened the envelope, revealing the sketches, not just drawings, but clues, messages, and symbols that her mother had left behind, secrets hidden in plain sight. The intruder froze, eyes widening in shock. Where, how did you? Sarah's heart raced. This isn't just paper, she said, her voice gaining strength. This is my family, our story, and our strength. And you can't take it from us. Her father's eyes met hers, pride shining through fear. Sarah, whatever happens next, remember this: bravery doesn't mean you're never scared. It means you act, even when you are. The intruder staggered back, startled by the unexpected power of her revelation. And in that split second, Sarah realized she had changed. She was no longer the girl mocked for an old phone. She was the girl who refused to be defeated. But even as the intruder retreated temporarily, Sarah knew this was only the beginning. Outside the school, more shadows waited. Danger was far from over. And the secrets of her mother's past were about to unfold in ways she couldn't yet imagine. The bell outside the school had long since faded, replaced by an eerie silence that hung heavily over the empty playground. Sarah and her father sprinted down the side exit, the envelope clutched tightly against her chest. Each step felt heavier than the last, as though the shadows of the past were trying to pull them back. Her father glanced over his shoulder. They won't stop. Not until they get what they want. Sarah's mind raced. She had thought courage meant standing up to classmates, enduring mockery, even confronting a single intruder, but now the stakes were bigger than she had imagined. This was survival, and the world she had known felt fragile and small. They reached the edge of the schoolyard, but the street beyond was quiet, almost too quiet. Every parked car, every lamppost, seemed like a possible hiding place for danger. Sarah's pulse quickened. Dad, why didn't you tell me the whole truth before? She asked breathlessly. Why keep it hidden all these years? Her father slowed, gripping her hand firmly. I wanted to protect you. Some truths are heavier than most children can carry. Your mother's past, it was full of shadows, enemies, and secrets I hoped would never reach you. But hiding it made us vulnerable, Sarah. That's the danger of keeping secrets. Sarah nodded, trying to steady herself. She realized he was right. Courage wasn't just about action, it was also about facing the truth, no matter how painful. Just as they turned a corner, a car door slammed somewhere behind them. A shadow flickered, moving swiftly between parked vehicles. Sarah froze. Dad, they're following us. Her father's jaw tightened. We need to get somewhere safe, somewhere we can think. He scanned the street and spotted an old, abandoned building just a block away. There, he said. Quickly. They darted across the street and slipped through the rusted iron gate. The building smelled of dust and mildew, but it offered temporary cover. Inside, Sarah pressed herself against the wall, trying to catch her breath. Her father sank onto a broken bench, his forehead slick with sweat. They won't stop, he muttered. Not until they understand, until they find the part of your mother's past that we've hidden all these years. Sarah's curiosity battled her fear. What part? She whispered. Her father leaned forward, his eyes shadowed with memories. Before you were born, your mother discovered something that powerful people wanted buried. She tried to protect it, but they chased her even then. The sketches you carry, they're more than art. They're clues, codes, messages that she left for us. And now, it's up to you to follow them, to understand what she was protecting. Sarah's mind spun. Her mother had been brave, yes, but she had also been a secret keeper, a puzzle maker. And now, that puzzle was being handed to her. Suddenly, a faint noise echoed outside, a scraping, soft but deliberate. Sarah's eyes darted to the broken windows. Shadows moved past, lurking, searching. "Dad, they're outside," she whispered, panic rising. He stood slowly, placing a protective hand on her shoulder. "Sarah, it's time to make a choice. We can run, or we can fight smart. You've already shown courage. Now you have to show strategy." Sarah clenched the envelope. She thought of every moment she had endured mockery, shame, and fear. Every insult from classmates, every whispered comment about her old phone, every time she had been underestimated, it had all led to this moment. I can do it," she said firmly, her voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through her veins. "I can follow her clues. I can figure out what they're after." Her father nodded, pride and worry mingling in his expression. "Then we start now. But remember, Sarah, danger is everywhere. And the closer we get to the truth, the closer they will get to us." As they prepared to leave the building, Sarah paused and looked back one last time. The shadows outside were still there, watching, waiting. She realized that her life was no longer just about surviving school or facing classmates. It was about uncovering the truth of her family, protecting her father, and stepping into the legacy her mother had left behind. And then, from the far end of the street, a faint, familiar whistle echoed, a warning, a signal, a reminder that they were never truly alone. Sarah's heart raced. She had chosen courage, but now she had chosen a path that could change everything, or destroy everything she loved. Sarah and her father crouched in the shadows of the abandoned building, the envelope pressed against her chest like a shield. The street outside was quiet again, but the lingering tension told her danger was still very close. She could feel it, a pulse in the air, as if unseen eyes were tracking their every move. Her father opened his bag and pulled out a small notebook. "Sarah," he said quietly, "your mother left more than sketches. There are hidden messages, codes, things that at first look like drawings, but really they're instructions, warnings. If we understand them, we can protect ourselves, and maybe even stop them." Sarah's fingers trembled as she opened the envelope. The sketches were beautiful, intricate scenes of forests, rivers, and buildings. At first glance, they seemed like mere drawings, but now she noticed something she hadn't before: tiny symbols tucked into the corners, patterns hidden in shadows, sequences repeated across multiple pages. "See these," her father pointed. "Your mother was clever. She embedded information in ways most people wouldn't notice. A location, a date, a warning, we just need to figure out the pattern." Sarah leaned closer, her mind sharpening despite the fear coursing through her veins. She had always loved puzzles, but this was different, high stakes, life and death stakes. Her fingers traced the lines of a sketch showing a small, old library. Hidden in the shadows of the trees, a series of numbers appeared, 12, 4, and 9. "What do you think it means?" Sarah whispered. Her father shook his head slowly. "It could be a date, a street number, a code. Your mother would never leave something obvious. She wanted only those who truly paid attention to find it." Sarah's eyes scanned the next page, a sketch of a river with bridges and stepping stones. Small symbols marked certain rocks, almost like a secret path. Her pulse quickened. "Maybe it's a location, like a map." Her father nodded, eyes narrowing. "Exactly. But we have to be careful. Whoever that intruder was, they've probably been watching too. They'll know we're following the clues." Sarah felt a surge of determination. This wasn't just about fear anymore, it was about solving the mystery her mother had left behind, about protecting her family, and about proving to herself that she could face the unknown. She folded the sketches carefully and tucked them back into the envelope. "Okay," she said firmly. "Where do we start? How do we follow her path?" Her father opened the notebook again, revealing notes in her mother's handwriting. "Follow the river at dawn. The first bridge hides what you seek. Beware the shadows." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. It was a direct instruction. A step-by-step path her mother had left, knowing someone would one day follow it. "Dawn," she repeated quietly. "We can't wait. The sooner we start, the safer we might be." Her father nodded, adjusting his bag. We leave in 20 minutes. But Sarah, remember. Courage alone won't keep us safe. You have to stay alert, trust your instincts, and. Before he could finish, a faint sound reached their ears, footsteps approaching the building, slow and deliberate. Sarah's pulse quickened. She clutched the envelope tightly. They found us, she whispered. Her father's eyes hardened. Looks like the first test begins sooner than expected. Are you ready, Sarah? Sarah took a deep breath, feeling every ounce of fear and determination collide inside her. I'm ready, she said. The footsteps grew louder, echoing against the concrete walls. Shadows stretched long across the floor, and for a moment, Sarah felt the weight of everything her mother had left behind. And then, a hand reached for the door handle, and the first figure of the night stepped inside the building, eyes scanning the darkness. Sarah knew this was only the beginning. The path her mother had hidden was about to take them into danger, secrets, and truths far bigger than anything she had imagined. The door creaked slowly, and Sarah's eyes snapped toward the movement. A tall figure stepped into the abandoned building, a hood shadowing their face. Every instinct in Sarah screamed to hide, but she stood frozen, clutching the envelope tightly. Her father moved in front of her, shielding her with his body. Who's there? He demanded, voice low but commanding. The figure paused, then raised their hands slightly. I'm not here to hurt, yet, a soft, measured voice replied. Sarah couldn't see the face clearly, but something in the tone made her uneasy, calculated, knowing, like they had been waiting. Sarah's father narrowed his eyes. Then why follow us? Why track us into this building? The figure took a slow step forward. Because the girl has something her mother left behind. And others, dangerous people, want it. I was sent to observe. And perhaps, help. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. Help? Could she trust someone who had been following them? She looked at her father, whose expression was unreadable but cautious. Observe, he repeated. And who sent you? The figure hesitated. That. I cannot say yet. But I can guide you safely to the first clue. The path your mother left is treacherous, and you cannot do it alone. They are closer than you think. Sarah's pulse raced. Everything in her life had been ordinary until now, school, friends, her old phone. But this was a world of shadows, secrets, and danger. And suddenly, she realized that courage alone would not be enough. She needed intelligence, alertness, and perhaps an ally she didn't fully trust. Her father's eyes met hers. Sarah, we have a choice. We can trust this stranger, or we can continue blindly. But we cannot stay here. They will find us. Sarah swallowed hard. Her fingers tightened around the envelope. We follow them, she said finally, voice firm. But carefully. Step by step. The stranger nodded, pulling a folded map from their coat. The first clue is at the old bridge by the river. Dawn is approaching. There are watchers along the way, people who won't hesitate to strike. Move quickly, stay quiet. Sarah's stomach tightened. The sketches, the hidden codes, and now this map, it was like stepping into one of her own drawings, except this was real, and failure meant danger, not just embarrassment. The three of them left the building quietly, sticking to shadows and alleys. Sarah's heart pounded with every sound, the distant bark of a dog, a rustling trash can, the faint echo of footsteps behind them. Are we going the right way? Sarah whispered, glancing at the stranger. Yes, the stranger replied softly. But we're being followed. They're closer than you realize. Sarah felt a chill. Her father had warned her about courage being only part of the journey. Now she understood. Fear was constant, and vigilance was survival. As they approached the river, the first hints of dawn broke through the clouds, reflecting on the water's surface. The bridge appeared in the distance, old and creaking, its wooden boards weathered by years of wind and rain. Almost there, the stranger murmured. The clue your mother left, it's hidden under the third plank on the right side. But be careful. Others may already know. Sarah's heart raced as she stepped closer to the bridge, scanning each plank carefully. She felt a strange connection to her mother, like the woman who had left these messages had known her would follow, had known she would be brave enough to face the danger. Her fingers trembled as she lifted the third plank. Beneath it, a small metal box lay hidden. Inside, there were papers, more sketches, but also a small key and a note written in her mother's familiar handwriting. Trust no one completely. The first step is revealed. Protect it, follow it, and remember who you are. Courage is your shield, wisdom is your weapon. Sarah's pulse quickened. She looked at her father and the stranger. This is it. This is where the journey truly begins. But before she could examine the key further, a sharp sound echoed from behind, the unmistakable snap of a branch underfoot. Someone else had arrived. Sarah spun around. The shadowy figures of three men were emerging from the tree line, eyes fixed on them, their movements deliberate and dangerous. Her father gritted his teeth. Sarah, run if you have to, but don't lose the box. Sarah clutched the envelope and the small box, feeling the weight of her mother's legacy and the threat of the enemies closing in. The river, the bridge, and the first clue were just the beginning. And now, the rail chase had begun. The cold dawn wind bit at Sarah's cheeks as she and her father crouched behind the broken railing of the old bridge. The small metal box and the envelope were clutched tightly in her hands, her fingers trembling not from cold, but from adrenaline. Across the river, the shadowy figures moved deliberately, scanning every corner as if they already knew where the first clue was hidden. Stay low, whispered the stranger, stepping slightly ahead. They're armed, and they won't hesitate. Sarah's pulse pounded in her ears. This was no longer a chase, this was a fight for survival. Her mind flashed to the sketches, the hidden codes, her mother's note. Courage was necessary, but so was strategy. Dad, what do we do? She whispered. He glanced at her with a mixture of pride and worry. We defend, we distract, and we move quickly. Remember what I taught you. Stay calm. Use your head. The shadowy figures moved closer, their eyes fixed on the bridge. Sarah's stomach churned. Every step they took seemed louder than the last, echoing off the river below. She felt her heart leap as the nearest man raised his arm, pointing directly at them. Now, whispered the stranger. Sarah's father nodded. Together, they made a sudden move, leaping from their hiding spot to a section of the bridge slightly farther along. The wooden boards creaked loudly under their weight, but it was enough to draw the attention of the men behind them. Over here, one of the men shouted, sprinting toward the sound. Sarah's heart hammered in her chest. We need a plan, she hissed. Her father handed her the envelope. Keep it safe. I'll handle them. But Sarah didn't feel like standing aside. She remembered her mother's words, courage is your shield, wisdom is your weapon. Slowly, deliberately, she placed one of her sketches on the bridge, positioning it so the sunlight reflected off a small metallic detail embedded in the page. The man closest to them paused, squinting. What's that? He muttered. Sarah held her breath. The distraction worked, the other two men stumbled toward the page, investigating. Her father seized the opportunity, grabbing her hand, and they sprinted across the bridge toward a narrow path leading into the woods. Branches scratched their arms, and the undergrowth slowed them, but the men were still caught momentarily by the clever trap Sarah had improvised. Her mind raced, this was only the beginning. She had acted on instinct, on a tiny spark of ingenuity inspired by her mother, but she knew she couldn't rely solely on luck. Finally, they broke into a small clearing, hidden from the view of the men on the bridge. Sarah's lungs burned, but the adrenaline made her feel alive in a way she had never experienced before. She clutched the box and the envelope tightly. Her father panted beside her. Sarah, that was incredible. You didn't just run, you thought, you acted. That's bravery in action. Sarah nodded, still trembling. But they're still out there. They'll catch up, won't they? The stranger stepped forward, scanning the surrounding woods. Maybe. But the first step has been completed. You've held the box, found the first clue, and survived the first confrontation. That's more than most people could do. Sarah's gaze dropped to the note inside the box. She carefully opened it, revealing a small map, several coded symbols, and a single line of writing from her mother. The path is only dangerous if you stop moving. Trust your instincts. Your courage will light the way. Sarah's fingers tightened around the note. She realized the truth. This was not just a physical journey, it was a test of her mind, her instincts, and her heart. And she was ready to face it. But just as she began studying the map, a distant sound carried through the trees, a low, menacing laugh that made her blood run cold. "They're closer than we think," whispered the stranger. Sarah's heart raced again. The first confrontation was over, but the chase was far from finished. Somewhere out there, the shadowy figures were regrouping, watching, waiting. And the next move would determine whether Sarah and her father survived or whether the dangerous past of her mother would finally catch up with them. The clearing was quiet for only a heartbeat, then the forest itself seemed to awaken with danger. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig made Sarah feel hunted. She sat on a mossy stone, clutching the small metal box, her chest rising and falling quickly. Her father crouched beside her, his hand steady on her shoulder. "Sarah, breathe. You're doing well." The stranger scanned the tree line, alert as ever. "We don't have much time. If they've regrouped, they'll close in. Look at the map. Now." Sarah unfolded the small, creased paper. It showed a rough sketch of the river they had just crossed, winding deep into the forest. A small mark, like an X, was drawn near the bend of the river, where the trees grew thickest. Around the edges were strange symbols, almost like arrows pointing in different directions. Her brow furrowed. "These arrows, they don't make sense. They're not pointing north or south. They're scattered, like a pattern." Her father leaned closer. "Patterns, Sarah. That's what your mother loved. Look again." Sarah traced the arrows with her finger, noticing that each pointed toward something on the paper, a tree, a rock, a small detail she hadn't noticed before. Slowly, she realized the arrows formed letters. She gasped softly. "It spells something, it says light." Her father's eyes widened slightly. "Light? Could it be a warning? Or a direction?" The strangers shook their head. "No. Your mother wasn't vague. If she wrote light, it means light itself will guide you. Dawn has just broken. The sun's rays, that's the key." Sarah stood and turned, letting the morning sunlight spill over the map. The beams hit the paper, and suddenly faint ink glowed across the river bend marking. New words appeared in her mother's handwriting, revealed only by the light. The second key lies where the shadows meet the water. Trust the current. But beware, the hunters know this path too. Sarah's chest tightened. Hunters, she knew they'd follow us? Her father's jaw clenched. She always expected it. She was protecting us even then. The stranger nodded solemnly. Which means time is running out. The hunters won't hesitate to kill for what she left behind. Before Sarah could respond, a branch snapped in the distance, louder this time, closer. She froze, clutching the map tighter. "They're here," the stranger hissed. "Move." They sprinted toward the river bend, weaving through trees, their feet pounding against the earth. Sarah's lungs burned, but she forced herself forward, gripping the box and the map. She couldn't let them fall into the wrong hands. At last, the sound of rushing water grew louder, guiding them to the bend. The river sparkled in the morning light, but its edges were dark with shadows from the thick forest canopy. Sarah's mother's clue made sense now, where shadows meet the water. Her father scanned the shoreline. "There," he whispered, pointing to a cluster of rocks jutting into the river, half covered by shade. Sarah hurried over, kneeling down. She searched frantically between the rocks, dipping her hand into the cold water until her fingers brushed against something metallic. Her heart leapt as she pulled out a small waterproof container, sealed tightly. Inside was another note, and this time, something more, an old photograph of her mother standing in front of a building Sarah didn't recognize. The note read, "The place of knowledge. The answers you seek are hidden there. Protect the key, and don't trust the one who walks in shadows. Sarah's eyes widened. She glanced at her father, then at the stranger. Her mother's words rang like thunder in her ears. Don't trust the one who walks in shadows. The stranger stiffened, catching her glance. What's wrong? They asked calmly. Sarah's grip tightened on the photograph. Could her mother have meant this stranger? Or someone else? Before she could speak, a rustling roar filled the forest. The hunters burst from the trees, 3 of them, their eyes fixed on Sarah and the container in her hands. Her father pulled her back. Sarah, behind me, he shouted. The stranger stepped forward, blocking the path. But Sarah's mind was spinning with her mother's warning. Don't trust the one who walks in shadows. And now, as danger closed in, she didn't know who the real enemy was. The hunters closed in, their boots crunching against the forest floor, eyes sharp, movements precise. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. 3 against them. And her mother's warning still echoed in her mind, don't trust the one who walks in shadows. Her father gripped a thick branch like a weapon, ready to fight if needed. The stranger, calm as ever, stepped forward, placing themselves between Sarah's family and the hunters. Stay back, the stranger ordered the men. This isn't your fight. The hunters laughed, low and cruel. One of them raised his hand, revealing a knife that glinted in the weak sunlight. Everything she carries is our fight. Hand it over, or you both die. Sarah's pulse thundered. She held the container and photo tightly against her chest. Her mother's face in that photograph seemed to be looking at her, urging her to be strong, urging her to think. Her father leaned close, whispering, Sarah, listen to me. If anything happens, you run. You run and you don't look back. She shook her head fiercely. No. I won't leave you. But before they could argue, the first hunter lunged forward. Her father swung the branch, blocking the attack, the crack of wood against steel echoing through the trees. The other 2 spread out, trying to corner them. The stranger moved suddenly, too suddenly. They stepped to the side, motioning toward the trees as if signaling someone unseen. Sarah's stomach dropped. Was this the betrayal? Was this what her mother meant? Her instincts screamed. Dad, she cried. The stranger watched them. Her father glanced sharply, but in that split second of distraction, one of the hunters rushed him, knocking the branch aside. Sarah screamed as her father stumbled back, barely regaining his balance. The stranger snapped their wrist, and to Sarah's shock, a concealed blade slid into their hand. With swift precision, they slashed at the hunter's arm, forcing him to retreat with a cry of pain. Go, the stranger barked. I'll hold them off. Sarah froze, torn. Was this protection, or part of some deeper plan? Her mother's note had warned her, but right now, hesitation could mean death. Her father grabbed her arm. Sarah! Move! They bolted toward the riverbank, branches whipping at their faces as the chaos of fighting erupted behind them. Sarah clutched the photo and container, her legs pumping furiously, her lungs burning. She didn't dare look back. When they reached the other side of the river bend, they crouched low behind a cluster of reeds. Sarah's hands shook as she unfolded her mother's note again. Don't trust the one who walks in shadows. Her voice trembled. Dad, what if she meant the stranger? What if we're walking right into their trap? Her father wiped the sweat from his brow, still panting. Or, what if she meant someone else? Shadows aren't just people, Sarah. They're lies. Deceptions. Things you can't see clearly. Your mother knew how to speak in riddles. Sarah stared at the photo again. The building behind her mother, it looked old, tall, with grand windows. She realized it wasn't just a random place. It was the next clue. Dad, she whispered urgently. This building, it looks like a library. That has to be the place of knowledge she wrote about. Before he could reply, the sound of footsteps splashing in the river made her freeze. The hunters were crossing, still chasing. Her father's eyes hardened. Then we have no choice. We head for the library. If that's where the truth is, then that's where we'll find answers. But Sarah, he looked at her gravely. We'll have to decide soon whether to trust the stranger or not. And that decision could save us or destroy us. Sarah clutched the photograph tighter. She felt the weight of the choice pressing on her chest. Was the stranger their protector or the very shadow her mother had warned her about? And as the sound of the hunters grew closer, she knew she couldn't delay the decision much longer. The forest thinned as Sarah and her father hurried along a narrow trail, the river fading behind them. The photograph in her hands shook with every step. The image of her mother standing before the tall building burned into her mind. That has to be it, Sarah whispered, staring at the photo again. The library, the place of knowledge. Her father nodded, though his face remained tense. If that's the next destination, then your mother wanted us to find something there. But the hunters will guess it too. We'll have to move faster. The morning light broke stronger now, filtering through the trees. For a fleeting moment, it gave Sarah hope. She imagined her mother's presence in that sunlight, guiding them step by step. But then a sound behind them shattered the peace. Shouts, crashing footsteps, the hunters still on their trail. Sarah's father pulled her to the side path, crouching low. We'll use the old road, he whispered. It leads toward the town. If we keep moving, we'll reach the outskirts before they catch up. Sarah nodded, though unease prickled at her. She glanced back once more, half expecting the stranger to emerge from the trees. They had fought to protect them, but her mother's warning still clung to her heart like a thorn. Don't trust the one who walks in shadows. As they crept through the undergrowth, Sarah whispered, Dad, what if Mom meant the stranger? What if we're being led into something worse than the hunters? Her father kept his eyes on the path, his jaw tight. Or what if the stranger is the only reason we're still alive? Sometimes shadows protect. Sometimes they deceive. We'll have to decide carefully. The uncertainty gnawed at her. Every step forward felt like walking deeper into a maze where the walls shifted without warning. After nearly an hour of cautious movement, the trees opened to reveal a distant skyline. Sarah's breath caught. Rising above the rooftops of the small town was the building from the photograph, tall, majestic, with arched windows catching the sunlight. The library. Her heart thudded. Dad, that's it. We found it. But her father's face darkened. If we can see it, so can they. We'll need to approach carefully. Just as he said this, a figure appeared on the edge of the path. Sarah gasped. The stranger. They were battered, a streak of dirt across their face, but they still stood tall, calm, eyes steady. You made it, the stranger said quietly. The hunters are close. We must move before they surround the library. Sarah froze, her mother's note echoing in her mind again. Don't trust the one who walks in shadows. Her father studied the stranger's face carefully. Why are you helping us? Tell me the truth. Who sent you? The stranger hesitated for the first time. I can't tell you everything now. But know this, your wife trusted me once. And she knew this day would come. I owe her, and you. Sarah's heart raced. Trust? Debt? It sounded real, but was it a lie wrapped in truth? Before she could decide, the distant echo of shouts rang through the trees. The hunters were closing in. The stranger's eyes locked on Sarah. You don't have time to question. The library holds what you need. But if you want to live long enough to reach it, you'll follow me. Sarah looked at her father. His face was unreadable, torn between caution and urgency. The moment stretched, heavy with consequence. To trust or not to trust, the choice pressed down on Sarah harder than ever. And then, as if to force her hand, a sharp crack split the air, a gunshot, fired from the forest. Bark splintered from a tree just inches from where she stood. There was no more time to think. The crack of the gunshot still echoed in Sarah's ears as she stumbled forward, her father pulling her by the arm. Behind them, the hunters shouted, their voices sharp and merciless. Move, Sarah, her father urged. The stranger sprinted ahead, scanning the streets as they emerged from the forest and into the edge of town. The streets were just waking, shopkeepers lifting shutters, children walking to school, the ordinary hum of life beginning. But for Sarah, nothing about this felt ordinary. She clutched the photo and container, her chest heaving. There, the stranger pointed, leading them through a narrow alleyway between two brick buildings. The library is only a few streets away. Stay low, don't draw attention. Sarah's eyes darted from face to face as they passed startled townsfolk. To them, she and her father probably looked like nothing more than a frightened family rushing through the morning air. But behind those faces, could someone be watching? Could the hunters already have spies here? Her father whispered urgently, "Sarah, keep the box hidden. Don't let anyone see it." She shoved it into her bag, but her fingers lingered on the photograph. Her mother's eyes, her faint smile, they gave her strength. The place of knowledge, the answers you seek are hidden there. At last, the library came into view. Sarah's breath caught. It was even grander than the photo, stone steps leading up to massive wooden doors, tall windows gleaming in the sunlight, and carved words above the archway, "Wisdom is the shield of the brave." Her chest tightened. It felt like her mother's words were carved into the very building. But then, her relief turned to dread. Two black cars were parked near the library, their tinted windows dark and ominous. Sarah's instincts screamed, "Dad, they're already here." Her father's face hardened. "Hunters." The stranger pulled them into the shadow of a shopfront. "They're watching the entrance. We can't go through the front door." Sarah's heart raced. Then how? The stranger's eyes scanned the building. "There's a side entrance, an old maintenance door by the garden. Your mother used it once before. She told me it would be the safest way in." Her father's jaw tightened. "How do you know all this? Just how close were you to my wife?" The stranger's gaze darkened, but their voice stayed calm. "Close enough to risk my life for hers. And now, for her daughter." Sarah's stomach twisted. The words sounded sincere, but her mother's warning echoed in her ears again, "Don't trust the one who walks in shadows." The choice loomed before her. The library was so close, yet danger was everywhere, hunters outside, possible betrayal within. Her father looked at her, letting her decide. She drew a shaky breath. "We take the side entrance." The stranger nodded, leading them swiftly around the corner. Every step felt like balancing on the edge of a blade. When they reached the garden, the air was thick with roses and ivy climbing the walls. The side door stood partially hidden by vines, its paint peeling with age. The stranger pulled a set of old keys from their pocket, surprising Sarah. The lock clicked open with ease. Her father's eyes narrowed. "You had the key all along?" The stranger met his glare evenly. "Your wife trusted me with it. That should be enough." Sarah's heart thudded. Every revelation tangled her thoughts more. Could trust and betrayal wear the same mask? As the heavy door creaked open, the air inside smelled of old paper, dust, and secrets. Sunlight streamed through high stained glass windows, illuminating rows upon rows of shelves that seemed to stretch endlessly. Sarah felt a shiver down her spine. The place of knowledge. She was finally here. But just as she stepped inside, a shadow moved across the far aisle. Someone was already in the library. The library doors shut softly behind them, cutting off the noise of the outside world. The silence inside was heavy, broken only by the faint echo of their footsteps. Dust floated in the shafts of colored light streaming from stained glass, painting the wooden floor with red and blue patches. Sarah's eyes widened. She had never seen so many books in one place. Towers of knowledge surrounded her, each shelf a silent witness to centuries of secrets. For a fleeting moment, she felt awe until she remembered the shadow she had seen moving. Her father placed a protective hand on her shoulder. "Stay close. Someone's here." The stranger scanned the aisles with sharp eyes, their hand resting on the concealed blade at their side. "Your mother left something in this building. She wouldn't have chosen this place at random. Sarah pulled out the photograph again, holding it up against the tall shelves. Her mother had stood in front of one of these very windows. The colored glass behind her looked identical. Sarah's heart quickened. This is the spot. She was standing right here. Her father crouched by the shelf. Look for markings. Anything unusual? Sarah ran her fingers along the spines of the old books. Most were coated in dust, but one volume felt strangely clean, as though it had been touched recently. She pulled it gently, and to her shock, the entire section of the shelf clicked forward. A hidden compartment. Sarah's breath caught. Inside, wrapped in faded cloth, was a small leather-bound journal. Her hands trembled as she lifted it out. On the first page, in her mother's familiar handwriting, were the words, "To my daughter, if you are reading this, it means the shadows have reached too close. Trust your heart, not appearances. The truth is deeper than blood." Sarah's vision blurred with tears. "Mom, she knew I'd come here." Her father leaned closer, his voice breaking. "She left this for you." But before they could read further, a sound sliced through the silence, a cough, faint but unmistakable. Someone else was in the aisle behind them. The stranger tensed immediately, blade half drawn. "We're not alone." Sarah's pulse spiked. She clutched the journal against her chest, every nerve screaming. From the shadows of the far shelf, a figure stepped forward. A man in a dark coat, his eyes cold, his posture deliberate. The hunter leader. He smiled thinly, his voice low but cutting through the air. So, the little family found the diary. Just like she predicted. Sarah froze. She? Did he mean her mother? Her father moved in front of her instinctively. "Stay back." The hunter leader ignored him, his gaze fixed on Sarah. "You think that journal will save you? It's the reason she's gone. And now, it will be the reason you follow." The stranger slid fully in front of them, blade gleaming in the dim light. "Not while I'm here." The hunter leader chuckled. "Of course you'd say that. But tell me, girl, do you really know who stands beside you? Or are you trusting the very shadow your mother warned you about?" Sarah's breath caught. The words hit like a dagger. Was this man lying to twist her mind, or was he revealing the very truth her mother had written about? The journal grew heavier in her arms. Her mother's voice echoed in her memory, "Trust your heart, not appearances." But her heart was torn between fear, confusion, and hope. And as the hunter leader slowly raised his weapon, Sarah realized the library, meant to be a sanctuary of knowledge, was about to become a battlefield. The silence of the library shattered in an instant. The hunter leader stepped forward, weapon glinting under the colored light from the stained glass windows. His boots echoed on the wooden floor like a countdown to disaster. Sarah's father tightened his grip on a heavy chair he had grabbed from a nearby table, ready to fight. The stranger raised their blade, their eyes locked on the hunter. And Sarah, her heart hammered, her breath sharp, clutched the journal as if her mother herself were inside its pages. The hunter leader sneered. "That diary doesn't belong to you, girl. Hand it over, and maybe I'll let you and your father walk away." Her father growled. "Over my dead body." The hunter smirked. "That can be arranged." And then, chaos erupted. The hunter lunged forward, swinging his weapon, but the stranger intercepted, steel clashing against steel. Sparks flew in the dim light, the sound of metal shrieking against metal filling the library's silence. Sarah stumbled back, nearly tripping over a stack of books. Her father swung the chair with full force, smashing it into another hunter who had slipped inside through the side door. Wood splintered, the impact sending the man sprawling. "Dad!" Sarah cried. "Stay behind me," he shouted, but she couldn't. Something inside her told her this wasn't the moment to hide. Her hands shook as she opened the journal, flipping desperately through the fragile pages. Words blurred before her eyes until one line seemed to burn brighter than the rest. "In the place where words are kept, seek the page marked by light. There lies the key to turning shadows into truth." Her pulse quickened. "Dad!" It's not just a diary, it's a clue. Mom hid something here. But there was no time to explain. The hunter leader pushed the stranger back, his blade slicing dangerously close. The girl doesn't understand, he hissed. She never did. But I do. I know what her mother left behind. And I will take it. Sarah's hands trembled, but her mother's words echoed again, trust your heart, not appearances. She scanned the library, her eyes darting toward the tall windows. Sunlight streamed in through the stained glass, cutting golden beams across the shelves. A page marked by light. Her breath caught. One beam fell directly on a massive dictionary lying open on a podium near the center of the hall. That's it, she whispered. Clutching the journal, she darted toward the podium, her shoes skidding against the floor. "No," the hunter leader roared, breaking past the stranger and lunging toward her. Her father blocked his path, swinging the broken chair like a shield. The stranger struck again, fast and precise, forcing the hunter back for a brief moment. Sarah reached the podium, heart racing. The sunlight hit a specific page of the dictionary. Her hands shook as she flipped it fully open, and there, tucked between the fragile sheets, was a small folded envelope. Her breath caught. On it was written in her mother's handwriting, for Sarah. Her chest tightened with a mix of joy and terror. She had found it. Another message. But before she could open it, the hunter leader's hand clamped onto her arm, yanking her back violently. "You foolish child," he snarled. "That letter doesn't belong to you. It belongs to those who know how to use it." Sarah cried out in pain. The envelope nearly slipped from her hand. "Let her go," her father bellowed, charging forward. The stranger moved at the same time, blade flashing, their strike forcing the hunter to release her. Sarah stumbled free, clutching the envelope to her chest, her breath ragged. The hunter leader glared at her, fury burning in his eyes. "You don't even know what you're holding," he hissed. "But soon, you will wish you had never found it." Sarah's hands trembled as she held her mother's message tighter. Was this letter the key to everything? Or the very thing that could destroy them? She looked at the stranger, then at her father, then at the hunter who still loomed, unbroken. And deep down, she knew whatever was written inside that envelope could change everything. But opening it here, in front of all of them, might be the most dangerous decision of her life. Sarah's fingers trembled as she held the fragile envelope. Her name, written in her mother's graceful handwriting, seemed to glow in the filtered light of the library. Tears blurred her vision, but she forced herself to stay steady. Her father stood close, his chest heaving from the fight. The stranger hovered protectively, blade raised, eyes locked on the hunter leader. And the hunter himself, bleeding but unbroken, watched with a cruel, knowing smile. "Go on, girl," he taunted. "Read her words. See what secrets she left for you. Secrets that broke her, secrets that will break you too." Sarah swallowed hard. Her heart screamed wait, but her soul whispered now. With a sharp inhale, she tore the envelope open. The letter inside was short, written in hurried strokes. "My beloved Sarah, if these words reach you, it means I could no longer protect you myself. The shadows I fought are still alive. But remember this, the blood that runs in you is not just mine, it carries a power they fear. Trust the one who carries the blade of silence. Only together will you uncover the truth. And never forget, the real enemy wears the face of family." Sarah's breath caught. She read it again, her voice breaking aloud, "The real enemy wears the face of family." Her father stiffened. "What does that mean?" The hunter leader chuckled darkly, his voice dripping with venom. "It means she finally told you the truth. And now you see why I must take you." Her father growled, stepping forward. "Stay away from my daughter." But Sarah's mind was reeling. The real enemy wears the face of family. Did her mother mean someone related to them? Could it be? She shook her head, her heart refusing to accept the thought. The stranger's voice cut through her storm of panic. "We need to move. Now. That letter is the key, and if they get it, all her sacrifice will be in vain." The hunter leader's eyes burned with rage. She doesn't even understand what she holds. The child is a danger to herself and to everyone. He lunged again. The library exploded with chaos. Her father shoved Sarah behind him, blocking the strike with pure desperation. The stranger clashed with the hunter, steel ringing out, sparks flashing in the dim light. Books tumbled from shelves. Pages scattered across the floor like feathers in a storm. Sarah crouched, clutching the letter to her chest, her ears ringing with every crash. Trust the one who carries the blade of silence. Her eyes darted to the stranger. The blade in their hand gleamed faintly, sharp yet soundless in its movements. Was this what her mother meant? Was the stranger truly the one? But then, the real enemy wears the face of family. The words clawed at her heart. Did it mean the hunters, calling themselves family of some secret order? Or, did it mean something closer? Dad, she cried out, her voice desperate. What if Mom meant? But she couldn't finish. A deafening crash silenced her as the hunter leader kicked over an entire shelf, books raining down like an avalanche. Her father barely pulled her away in time. The stranger slashed through the falling debris, eyes blazing. Run! Take the letter and run! Her father grabbed her hand. They bolted down the aisle, the thunder of boots and the shouts of hunters chasing behind. Sarah clutched the letter, her lungs burning, her heart tearing itself apart with questions. As they burst through a side door into the blinding sunlight, Sarah knew one thing for certain: her mother's message had given her hope and fear. Because somewhere in the truth she had written was betrayal. And the closer they came to it, the more Sarah feared it would come from someone she loved. The sunlight outside blinded Sarah for a moment as she and her father stumbled into the library's garden. Behind them, shouts erupted, hunters pouring out of the shattered doors. The stranger followed close, blade still gleaming, urging them forward. Run, the stranger barked. They won't stop until they have the letter. Sarah's chest burned as she clutched her mother's words to her heart. The blood that runs in you is not just mine. The real enemy wears the face of family. The lines replayed in her mind, over and over, like a drumbeat of fear. They darted down narrow streets, weaving past startled townsfolk who froze at the sight of armed men chasing a girl and her father. Shopkeepers shouted, children screamed, but Sarah barely heard them. All she felt was the pounding of her feet, the heat of panic rising, the weight of the letter pulling her down. Her father glanced at her as they turned a corner. Sarah, are you all right? She nodded weakly, though her voice cracked. Dad. Mom's letter, it said the enemy wears the face of family. What if? Not now, he cut her off sharply. His eyes were hard, but there was a flicker of fear there too. We'll talk once we're safe. But safety felt like a lie. Already, a black car screeched into the street ahead, blocking their path. Two hunters jumped out, weapons drawn. Her father yanked Sarah into another alley, their footsteps echoing against brick walls. The stranger stayed behind for a split second, blade flashing as they clashed with the hunters, buying precious time. Dad! Sarah cried. We can't leave them. They'll catch up, her father shouted back. We need to keep moving. Every turn felt like a trap, every corner like a dead end. Sarah's lungs screamed for air, but she kept running, clutching the letter tighter. For Sarah. Her mother's words burned like fire in her hand. Finally, they burst out into an open square, a fountain at its center. People scattered as the hunters spilled into the space from every direction. They were surrounded. Her father stood tall, shielding her, but his breath came heavy, his face pale. The stranger appeared a heartbeat later, blade dripping, eyes fierce. The hunter leader stepped forward through the ring, his smile cruel. Enough running. You cannot escape forever. Give me the letter. Sarah shook her head violently, tears spilling. No. This is my mother's. You'll never take it. The hunter leader's gaze hardened. You think she saved that truth for you? No, child. She hid it because it would destroy you. Sarah's stomach knotted. His words echoed the darkest corners of her mother's warning. The real enemy wears the face of family. Her father raised his makeshift weapon again. The stranger moved to defend. But Sarah, her legs trembled, her hands shook, felt the decision pressing down harder than ever. Trust the stranger with the blade of silence? Trust her father, even though her mother's words cast shadows of doubt? Or trust no one but herself? Her voice cracked as she whispered to herself, "Mom, what did you mean?" The hunters closed in, their circle tightening. The fountain gurgled behind her like a ticking clock. And just as the leader lifted his hand to strike, Sarah felt someone grab her wrist. It wasn't her father. It wasn't the stranger. It was another hand, one she hadn't expected, pulling her back into the fountain spray, whispering urgently into her ear. "Don't trust either of them. Your mother gave that letter to you for a reason, only you." Sarah froze, her breath stolen. A new player had entered the game. The cold spray of the fountain splashed across Sarah's face as the stranger hand pulled her back, shielding her from the hunter's advancing circle. She gasped, twisting to see who it was. A woman stood behind her, tall, cloaked in dark fabric, her face partially hidden by a hood. But her eyes, those eyes made Sarah's chest clench. They were sharp, familiar, full of fire. The woman bent low, whispering into Sarah's ear. "Your mother and I were sisters. Real sisters. And if you want to live, you'll trust me, not them." Sarah's blood ran cold. Sisters? Her mother's sister? An aunt she had never known? Her father's face went pale. "No," he muttered, stepping forward in shock. "It can't be." The hunter leader grinned, savoring the chaos. "Ah, the lost sister finally shows herself. What a reunion this will be." The cloaked woman pulled back her hood, revealing striking features so like Sarah's mother's, yet harsher, sharper, hardened by years of secrets. Sarah's voice trembled. You knew my mother?" The woman's gaze softened for a flicker. "I didn't just know her, child. I fought beside her. Until she betrayed me. Until she chose him." She flicked her eyes at Sarah's father over her own blood. Sarah's stomach lurched. She looked at her father, whose jaw clenched, guilt flashing in his eyes. The hunters didn't move, watching like vultures circling. Even the stranger with the blade stood frozen, their expression unreadable. The woman tightened her grip on Sarah's wrist. "Your mother's letter, she gave it to you because she couldn't trust anyone else. Not him. Not her little shadow with the blade. Only you, Sarah. But you don't know how to read between the lines. I can help you." Her words sank like poison and honey all at once. Sarah's mind spun. The real enemy wears the face of family. Was this the family her mother had warned about, or was this the family she was meant to trust? Her father finally spoke, his voice low, trembling with emotion. "Sarah, don't listen to her. She's twisting the truth. Your mother left her behind for a reason." The woman's eyes blazed. "She left me behind because she was afraid of me. Afraid of what I knew. Afraid I'd uncover the truth she hid even from you." Sarah's grip on the letter tightened, her knuckles white. "Stop," she cried, her voice cracking. "All of you, just stop. I don't know who to believe anymore." The fountain roared louder, the spray soaking her hair as the circle of hunters closed tighter. The leader smirked. "Let them fight among themselves. We'll take what we came for when they've torn each other apart." Sarah looked from her father to the stranger, to the woman who claimed to be her aunt. Each face was desperate, each demanding her trust. Her mother's words echoed in her soul, "Trust your heart, not appearances." The real enemy wears the face of family. But whose face? As the hunters lifted their weapons, preparing to strike, Sarah knew the next choice she made could either save them all or doom them forever. The fountain's roar mixed with the pounding of Sarah's heart as hunters tightened their circle. Her father, the stranger, and the woman who claimed to be her aunt all stood around her, their eyes burning with desperation. Each demanded her trust. Each carried secrets. And her mother's words rang louder than ever. Trust your heart, not appearances. The real enemy wears the face of family. Sarah clutched the letter, trembling. She looked at her father, sweat on his brow, guilt in his eyes. The stranger, silent, blade steady, waiting for her word. The aunt, fierce, unrelenting, eyes that mirrored her mother's but twisted by pain. The hunter leader sneered. Choose, little girl. Who do you believe? Or shall I end the game for you? Sarah's chest heaved. Her voice cracked but carried through the square. No. I choose me. She tore the envelope open again, reading every word with new clarity. Her mother hadn't written for anyone else, only for her. The clues, the riddles, the warnings, they weren't about choosing between others. They were about finding the strength inside herself. Her mother's voice echoed in her soul, the truth is deeper than blood. Sarah stepped forward, raising the letter high so everyone could see. You all want this, but none of you deserve it. My mother didn't write this for hunters, or shadows, or even for my father. She wrote it, for me. The hunters hissed, tightening their weapons. The aunt's face flickered with frustration, the stranger's with quiet pride, her father's with tears. And then, Sarah moved. She stepped into the fountain, the water soaking her shoes, lifting the letter into the beam of sunlight breaking through the clouds. The light hit the ink, making faint hidden words glow across the page. Gasps erupted. Even the hunter leader staggered back. The letter's true message revealed itself. Sarah, my light, if you trust yourself, no one can ever use you. The shadows will always fight for you, against you, and around you. But remember this, the greatest strength is not in who you follow, but in who you become. You are the key. Protect what's inside you. And forgive, even when the world deceives you. Tears spilled down Sarah's face. Her mother hadn't been warning her to pick one person over another. She had been teaching her to stand on her own. The hunter leader roared in fury, lunging forward. But the stranger blocked him, blade flashing in silence. Her father rushed to her side, gripping her hand, his voice breaking. I'm sorry, Sarah. I should have told you more. I should have trusted you sooner. The aunt's voice trembled, anger cracking into sorrow. She always chose you. Always you over me. Even now. Sarah looked at her, heart aching. Maybe she wanted us both to find peace. But I can't let hate destroy me like it did you. The hunters attacked in desperation, but it was too late. The townsfolk, finally roused by the chaos, surged forward. Men and women armed with nothing but courage joined her father and the stranger. The hunters, outnumbered, scattered into the alleys, their leader disappearing with a final curse. Silence fell. The square dripped with water, sunlight cutting through the clouds. Sarah stood in the fountain, soaked but unbroken, the glowing letter still in her hands. Her father wrapped his arms around her. Your mother would be proud. The stranger bowed their head, then faded back into the shadows, leaving Sarah with a faint nod of respect. The aunt lingered at the edge, torn between bitterness and regret, before vanishing into the crowd. Sarah looked at the letter one last time. The glow faded, but its truth remained in her heart forever. She had learned the lesson her mother wanted most. That real strength wasn't in blood, shadows, or family names. It was in love, in forgiveness, and in choosing her own path. She tucked the letter safely away, whispering into the breeze, "Thank you, Mom. I understand now." The fountain gurgled softly, washing away the echoes of fear. And for the first time in a long time, Sarah felt not just her mother's absence, but her presence, guiding her forward. Moral lesson. Family is not just who we are born to, it is who we choose to trust, forgive, and love. In the end, the strongest truth lies not in shadows or betrayal, but in the courage to stand by our own heart.